So I'll start by a brief introduction. So it's a great privilege, and I would like to thank Marketeer for the invitation to be here today. It was suggested throughout the presentations that Portugal could be a little bit behind in terms of knowledge about retail media. I have to say that I've been to events about retail media in South America, in North America, across Europe, and someone that attended those events, if they landed here today and they knew some Portuguese, they wouldn't say that we are behind. The depth of thinking about this from the various presenters was really up there to what I've been saying. Of course, there are different nuances in the market, but this was really interesting to see. So, congratulations to Marketeer for the organization, and to Endless for partnering as well with the organization. So, my privilege is even higher because I have here today with me Moritz. Moritz leads retail media across Ahold in Europe and Indonesia. In a space that is relatively new, having someone with us with 6 years experience in this matter, it's really valuable. And not only that, but also because Moritz spans across different markets, and so very different experience and a lot of richness in that. So Moritz, I would ask you to give some context on Ahold for the ones that don't know, the scope of your work, and also sharing a little bit of your experience previously, because before managing retail media, Moritz worked for more than 20 years on the brand side, and so particularly relevant for the audience that we have here today.
Okay, so let's start. Well, thank you for having me, of course, and thank you for listening to me in another language. To begin with, actually, I have more than 10 years experience in retail media, because I've been a brand manager and a product manager and the marketing manager and an account manager and the sales manager, and so I've been on your side of the table for more than 20 years. And I've been in all those commercial meetings in Heinz and afterwards in Essity, where the salespeople and the marketing people would sometimes fight over budgets and what to do. So I've seen it from different angles, and then sometimes life is what happens. I ended up in a media, so a big publisher, and then 6 years ago I joined Ahold Delhaize. And Ahold Delhaize, for those of you who don't know what that is it's a retail company. It's one of the biggest retail companies in the world, roughly 100 billion euros. We are in the US, 2/3 of our companies in the US, all of that on the East Coast, so we're number one there. Then there's Europe, different countries in Europe, and there's also a small part in Asia. We have been around for more than 150 years, and some of our family members are even B Corp certified. Yeah, so quite a lot of sustainability in our company. Now, we started roughly 10 years ago with retail media. We currently, so that's for the year 2025, our target is 1 billion, so 1 billion euros. There you have, of course, already an interesting ratio, because I just told you that we're roughly 100 billion company, and then 1 billion in retail media. That also already gives you a bit of a feeling, where does that stand? We have a very broad portfolio, so it's not just sponsored search, it's everything. Yeah, so everything you've seen on the slides of Unilever before, or on the slides of Colin, we do the whole thing. So it's in the store, and it's in the website, in the app, it's offsite, it's a CRM, so emailing, it's in the crates of the home delivery, everything. We do this with roughly 400 people in Europe. And roughly half of those 400 people are technical people, so they are building. Because a couple of years ago, when we started off, we were looking for next level technology and next level solutions for our retail media network. We couldn't find it, and then we were arrogant enough to think that maybe we can build this ourselves. So we did. We bought an ad tech company from Belgium, and we built our own technology stack, which is covering everything. So that's in the store and website, app, everything is in there, including sponsored products and offsite. So that's roughly those 200 people, and then the other 200 people are in business. It's the same people that you would, for example, have in your team, so it's salespeople, operational people, research also. We'll get to talk a bit about the research that we've done over the years. Because since we've been doing this for quite a while, we have a very, very big base of data to do research on, to see, for example, whether it works. Because yes, I agree. By the way, it's very good to trust in God, but yes, let's also bring data. Yeah.
Thanks, Moritz. And so one of the questions that permeated the conference today was, why should marketeers, and Brian marketeers in particular, care about retail media?
Well, you know me a bit. I'm a guy, stories. I like to tell stories. So let me tell you a story. So there's lots of marketeers here in the room. And as I told you, I've been in your seat, right? And I've also been in the seat of the salespeople. And so why is it that if somebody is on a bus, on their phone, and they're doing socials, then that's the social team. And the marketeers here in the room, they're probably very much involved. You know, they want to make sure is that what the person sees is exactly in sync with the brand key or whatever you call your brand values that you have for all of your different brands. Then this person gets out of the bus. Yeah, they step out of the bus, they're on the street. There's a couple of really big digital out-of-home signs. And the messages on those slides and the way that they have been bought, that's also in your scope. You're probably quite involved in the message that you see there. But then this person, while walking on the pavement, steps into a store and all of a sudden you don't care anymore? I know that on paper you will say, no, of course I care, it's my customer. But in practice, and I've been there, well, let me speak for myself, I've made this mistake. Then the minute that they stepped into the store, then all of a sudden it was the responsibility of the sales guys. Yeah, because they do it. And even worse, the creatives that you would see in the store, so the floor sticker or the wobbler that you would have on the shelf, that was never done by a senior person. That was an intern. There's a hierarchy. You know, I've made this mistake. There's a hierarchy. You know, the guys that were allowed to talk to the guy with the black shirt and the black jacket, and the guy with the strange hair and the big glasses and the T-shirt from the agency, you know, that were making a television commercial. That's the highest ranking thing you can do in the marketing culture in the CPG. Yeah, as said, you know, I've been there. It was very much, and then, you know, the wobblers on the shelf, that was done by the intern, and that's wrong.
Well,
it shouldn't work like this.
Yeah, we all have been interns, so Moritz, let's not underestimate them. But that's a very good point, and so it seems that the strategic position that retailers have in the customer path, so to speak, is being a little bit discounted, so to speak. But from your experience and thinking about retail media, because it's a lot of data, it's a lot about data, but it's also about that strategic position that the retailers occupy, right? So what do you think is more important for the marketeers? One or the other, a blend? How do you see that panning out in the different markets?
You should do everything. Yeah, so, you know, as we had a quick chat at the beginning, like what are we going to talk about? And then I think it's very much about breaking down the silos. Yeah, so it's not marketing or sales or trade marketing or shopper marketing. You should really break down the silos. And I have been evangelizing breaking down the silos all over Europe. Yeah, over the last 6 years, on every stage that I was, let's break down the silos. And then one day, somebody walked up to me during the coffee break and they were saying, okay, fine, I get it, but now tell me how. And I thought, that's a good challenge, actually. You know, I shouldn't just say, let's break the silos down, but how do you do this? So I've been thinking about it. And if I would put myself in the position of a FMCG company, then there's a couple of things I would do. So one is, and I hope I already explained that a bit, is make sure that you put the consumer central, really. Don't think in channels, think in the consumer. Make sure is that everybody in the company thinks consumer-centric. Then one of the other things you should do is change your corporate structure. And by the way, I think that Unilever is one of the super examples in here. They were the first in the world to say, okay, as of today, the e-commerce department and the marketing department are no longer two different things. They're just one department and they should work together. That's what Connie Braams did, and I think she did a very good job at doing that. Then one other thing is, you should have the tools to really work together. Because in those silos, you know, everybody has its own tools, its own data, its own metrics, sometimes even their own language. Yeah, so this is also something you should bring together. And then there's a trick that every manager here in the room knows. If you want to have different teams work together, give them one target. Yeah, so shared targets. That's also that trick always works. And then there's more things you can do, but not to make the story too long. Is there is also, and we of course just had in the chairs here the discussion with the agencies. Is also make sure that you bring along your agency. You know, demand your agency to step up to the game as well. And you know, I don't speak Portuguese, so I couldn't follow the whole discussion here. But there's definitely also homework for the marketeers, and Colin is right, for the agency, sorry, and Colin is right. We shouldn't wait until it's all perfect. Yeah, we should start today. And that means that agencies really have to learn about the store floor. They should understand, and if they don't know how that works, then they should educate themselves, or, which is quicker, but, you know, get in people, hire people that understand the shop floor, so that the agencies can again play their role on advising the advertisers on how to better spend their money and make their euros work harder and make them sweat harder. So not to make that too long is, but breaking down the silos. And by the way, you know, the retailers should also break their silos, because they're also siloed. And lots of retailers don't speak, you know, Colin had this before as one of the challenges, they don't speak the media language good enough. And so there's homework for everybody, and it's all evolving around breaking down silos. And by the way, it's easy to say this. I've been there, and it's super, super difficult. You know, all these, well, for lots of people in the room here that work in marketing in CPGs, you know, I've been there for 20 years in these, you know, negotiations where you had the marketing team and the sales team, and you would think you would work for the same company, but still you're in. Well, I hear some grinning in the room, so probably some of the people understand.
Thanks for that, Moritz. Referring back to a slide that Colin showed, which is super interesting and right in the way that we think about this problem, is comparing the audiences that TV have in the US, but I think that's pretty much the case for every market in which we operate, and then the audiences that the actual retailers command across their digital properties, in-store, and all of that, of course. Why do you think there's such a huge discrepancy in terms of investment in those audiences? Is it because on the retailer side, people are not consuming content, or any other reason? And there seems to be an opportunity, because if there's a gap between audience and investment, probably there's a short-term opportunity to close that gap. Why do you think that happens? And again, what do you see in different markets?
Well, part of it is culture. Yeah, but we can talk here for hours, you know, and we all agree rationally.
Yeah.
And then we go back into our company, and there is culture. And I was just saying about the culture, you know, about that television commercials are the highest thing you can reach in the CPG, and then, you know, wobbler on a shelf is considered to be less important, which is wrong, but still that happens. That is one of the reasons. Yeah, so the culture is that it's just not in the system of the brand manager or the media director in the CPG to take that along into the complete picture. And then one of the ways, I think, to solve this is to have the consumer-centric, not the channel, but to have the consumer-centric. Now, I know you were going to ask something in this direction as a question, so I've been thinking, what else can I add? Next to, I'm not just going to repeat stuff that has already been on the slides, but I think there's two things that haven't been mentioned yet on the reach of retailers. And that is, I told you that we've been doing research now for 5-6 years. On the 10 years of data that we have here. So not too long ago, we did a big research with a company that uses quite intrusive, by the way, research, but people sign up for it and they get paid for it, is that you get an app on your phone and everything that you do is followed. Yeah, so everything that you scroll, every click, everything you type, the microphone is always on. Yeah, so it listens what radio you listen, it listens what television commercials and then we are connecting that to the loyalty data. Yeah, and this research goes really deep. We did it on 120 campaigns with more than 15,000 people in the Netherlands in this program that signed up. Like, okay, you can follow me for a week. Let's see what happens. Yeah, and and it was on more than 1,000 stores. And the outcome in relation to your question, now there's a couple of things to add. One is, we saw that the reach of retail media is adding additional reach, so incremental reach. So media directors, there might be a couple of media managers here in the room, are always looking to optimize their reach. And we saw that there was unique reach by retailers, so it was different types, grocery as well as drug, that it really added roughly 7 to 8% extra unique reach. So that's one. The other one is that it's brand safe. And yes, the media directors, but mainly the brand managers in the room will always be looking for brand safe environment. And retail media, per definition, is brand safe. Yeah, there's no bloody images on Gaza. There is no fake news on a retail media network. There is no hate speech on a media network. Super relevant. You know, your sales guy or your account manager will maybe not think in these terms of brand safety, but most of you are in the room that are in the marketing position. You think it's bloody important that you have a brand safe environment. So it's extra unique reach. It's brand safe. And then there's one third thing that I haven't heard today yet, but maybe it was discussed in the parts that I couldn't understand, and that is that there is ample research that people in a shopping state of mind. So if you're shopping, in a store, or even when you're doing it online, your brain works different, and we see that the research says this is significant. Is you're more open to ads. Yeah, so you're more open to an ad in comparison to when you're consuming media content. And that's interesting. Of course, I like this because I'm selling retail media, so this is something that I keep on telling on many stages. So apart from the things that we've heard before on the value of retail media and the reach of, there is incremental unique reach that you wouldn't be able to catch via other media channels. It's brand safe. And a shopping state of mind, people are more open in a shopping state of mind for advertisements.
That's incredible. Notwithstanding the results, which I had the opportunity to have a look, and I think it'd be great just to eventually visit your LinkedIn profile and see what you're posting, because you post about that. But that's an excellent example.
I just realized, and I know this is one of the things you asked me about a while ago. We see not only impact, because of course we also measure the ROAS, and I don't like ROAS. I know that still many of you in the room will work with ROAS, but we should have iROAS. And but if we look at the incremental impact, we see both impact on conversion and on brand.
Right.
So in terms of ad recall, for example, and. So I'm completely convinced, and in line with what Colin said at the beginning this morning, is that there is a role for retail media through the whole journey. Sorry for interrupting.
No problem. Very useful, Moritz. But what I was saying is, you did that because you had the loyalty data that allowed to stitch everything together. And so we've been talking a lot about data today, and that's an excellent example of the usage of what the loyalty data can bring to brand marketeers and have that kind of depth and insight. So thanks for sharing. I guess the audience is composed not only of FMCG brands, and so there may be some other brands in the audience. And so my question now, Moritz, was this may not be as evident, but what's in for the brands that are not suppliers of the retailers, right? The so-called non-endemic. What do you see happening in the different markets, and what's even the role of a store in which that brand is not present in the linear? But
okay, I was listening to your question. Now a story pops up. Sorry, I told you.
No worries.
So story. Just a couple of days ago, I was reading the newspaper. I still read the paper newspaper, right? So I was reading the news, and then on the other page, there was an advertisement for a car. For a car. I was reading the news. Why was there an ad for a car? That is strange, right? No? Why not? Okay, then tell me, why is it strange if the car ad would be next to the bananas in my store? No, but I mean this. What is the relationship between the car and the news on Gaza that I was reading? There is none. Maybe even the car wouldn't like to be next to the Gaza news. I don't know. There's no relationship, but it's eyeballs. It is my attention. I'm reading this newspaper, this blah blah highbrow newspaper, so probably I'm wealthy, yes? Let's show him the car. That is it. That's it. It's eyeballs. But there are eyeballs in my store, in a shopping state of mind, in front of the bananas. Sell them the car. I don't get it. It is just, we should change our paradigm. There is no reason not to show the car next to the bananas. And now, yes, I trust in God, but here's the data. So, we've been doing this for years now. We have cars next to the bananas in 1,000 stores. Well, no, 1,100 stores. We have it in the app. We sell insurances. We have non-endemic in our retail media networks. And they keep on coming back. Guess what? Probably because it works, right? We're measuring it and it works. Yes, I understand that for Unilever ice cream, the value of being in our app is higher than for the car brand. Yeah, because the context, of course, is more relevant to an endemic advertiser. But for a non-endemic advertiser, there is no reason not to use retail media. I'll give you a couple of reasons, and I already did, yeah, why it's even more interesting. Because it's brand safe, because it will add unique reach, because people are in a shopping state of mind. So there is, I don't need to convince you, yeah, but I'm really, I'm quite enthusiastic about this, is that we've been having quite an interesting business build with, as they are called, non-endemic. I still think that's an ugly word. If somebody has a better word, please come to me to tell me. But for non-endemic advertisers, there's definitely a reason. There's no reason not to. Yeah. So have a look. Try and test. Yeah. There are multiple retailers here in Portugal that will probably open their doors if you knock and say, okay, let's have a coffee. Let's see what we can do, and then make sure that you measure. There's all sorts of ways to measure. Of course, it's a bit more complicated than it is for endemic, where you can just, with your loyalty data, do closed loop. But there's multiple ways of doing something similar.
Yeah. And I guess there's the novelty component.
I'm passionate about this.
I can understand. I like your analogy. You told me once that there's no such thing as the Christmas tree in a store. So there's no saturation of communication. Even with the technology, you're able to target that better, even in an in-store environment, right?
Since I told you this, I have been in some stores in some countries in Europe where I was thinking,
they're almost there.
Maybe this is a bit like a Christmas tree. But you know what went wrong? I phoned up the guys running because I was in their store. I said, I've been in one of your stores. I said, hey, how's life? I said, no, I want to talk about your store. I was in one of your stores today. It looked shit. It was like a Christmas tree. It was like Times Square. Everywhere there were displays on the... And then we started, I said, what happened? And then he said, well, you know what happened? It was the guys in the trade relationship. Yeah, it was our sources, our category managers that are being pushed by their manager to get in more money. And in the conversations with the CPGs, they have been willing to negotiate more investments, but only if they got another display and another display and another shelf end and another, and then it completely went out of hand. So the trick for not having, Times Square or a Christmas tree in your store is discipline. Yeah, it is discipline, strict rules, and really working together. And in the working together between the retail media department and the trade department, because we always try to have a Chinese wall in the middle. So yes, on one side of the Chinese wall, we are fighting. Did I say negotiating? Oh, we are negotiating, of course, yeah. And having contracts signed in blood, and on the other hand of the Chinese wall, the retail media part, it's completely voluntary. And if these two start working together, then what I always say is, if the retail media department should not join forces with the trade department, they should join plans with the trade department. Yeah, and of course that's an ideal situation. It's a bit black and white, but this is what always be, should be the dot on the horizon: is join plans, not forces, with the category and buying department. Yeah.
Moritz, always a pleasure. Thanks for the conversation, and thanks again, Marketeer, for inviting us.